What's going on, ladies and lads, guys and gals of YouTube? It's your boy BT4 here with something maybe a little bit unexpected for some of y'all. So if you only follow me here on YouTube, which by the way, if you do, shout out to you and mad respect for sticking with me all this time, because with my upload schedule, you know. But if you want to follow me on, you know, stuff like Twitch and Twitter, check the description for the links. But with that, anyways, those of you who follow me on other platforms as well, you know that for the past few months, I've been addicted to the new Digimon Card Game, that 2020. And although the physical product, at least here, has been delayed by over 2 months by now, I finally actually managed to order a box yesterday, which, by the way, I will be opening when I get it on my Twitch channel, so check the link down below. But I have still, regardless of all of that, luckily been able to play this at Theatercraft thanks to all the wonderful online resources that we have. And I have also closely followed as well as played the Japanese meta. It's actually the one that I have been playing the most, since I like having the most amount of variety, and since the online resources have access to those cards, I've been playing with those quite a bit. So with this video, I want to give a bit of an insight to the Western players, what to look out for when we're going into the BT4 meta, as well as forward from that, and how you can upgrade your decks that you have in the 1.5, which, by the way, is also has been a great format, and it's been super interesting to see it develop going forward. But before we jump into that, I want to talk about 3 decks real quickly, sort of as a disclaimer. So they all come from BT4, and let me quickly get this here. There we go. So the 3 decks from BT4 that I want to talk about will be the yellow Wargreymon, which it's a level. These are all level 6s. That when attacking once per turn, you can put the top security card to your the top card from your security stack to your hand to unsuspend this Digimon and give an opposing Digimon minus 6000 DP for the turn. You have Nidhoggmon, a green level 6, which can Digiburst 4 and suspend all of your opponent's Digimon with 5000 DP and less, and then spin all of their suspended Digimon, regardless of DP, to the bottom of their deck, trashing the sources from those. So a real powerful tempo swing. Excuse me. And then Darkdramon, which is sort of the namesake for the new D-Brigade, archetype. It has Rush, and its on-play effect is that you can return up to 5 D-Brigade cards from your trash to the top of your deck in any order, and for each you get 2 memories. So if you do all 5, you recur some value, as well as get a 11k 3-cost Rush into play. So definitely a very cool one. I think the D-Brigade archetype will be a pretty cool archetype. It's more of a more value, a bit less aggressive version of Rookie Rush, which I think is much more interesting. And stuff like Ceresmon is great in that to get even more bodies on the board, as well as when BT5 rolls around, the new Omnimon Zwart will be a very good at filling the trash, as well as getting you even more dudes in play, as well as being just a generally very good boss monster for the deck. But the thing about all these cards, a little less the yellow Wargreymon, but still, is that they all kind of warrant and want decks built around them. You can build stuff like Nidhoggmon, Ceresmon, but it's very clunky, and playing either or would usually be much better. And then for stuff like yellow Wargreymon, it's more flexible and can be slotted into many yellow decks, sort of as just a generically good and powerful and flexible finisher. I still think it's better in a more dedicated build. And then Darkdramon just warrants the whole archetype. So it's just basically a tribal deck, so it just wants a deck built around it in itself. So these 3, I definitely think they will all be very powerful in the BT4 format. Nidhogg and Yellow Wargreymon will probably be like the top decks, and D Brigade will still be a very strong contender. But these are all more new decks, and here I want to focus on how to upgrade your current ones while still keeping the theme. So that's just a small disclaimer to get out of the way. So another thing is that what I want to talk about is Ragnazoo, which is a deck that's really close to my heart. It's actually, I think, the first deck, first like 100% homebrew deck that I built in like the beginning of April. Because like I have like 50% mix of both in terms of decks that are tweaked tournament builds, and then decks that are just fully original, because I actually think it's a great way of building decks, taking a tournament sort of package that you like and then just change out cards as you see fit, since I have never seen a build that I just like out of the box. So definitely recommend tweaking those to your liking. But that's definitely one that I want to talk about going forward and how to upgrade the deck. Then the second one is the coveted red-yellow security control deck. That definitely. Then we have Shinegreymon, another one. Actually my favorite yellow deck to play, but my heart to all fellow Shinegreymon players going forward to BT6 when the new Ceresmon white tamer gets released, because that matchup is atrocious. Then we have Ceresmon, who, spoiler alert, won't be changing much, but I have a couple cards that I want to briefly mention about that. And then finally, purple as a whole. More of the melee archetype, but I still want to talk about purple as a whole. And then, real quick disclaimer, red and blue, going forward to BT4 at least, won't be changing too much. For red, you have stuff like the new Victory Greymon, which is cool. But I still think we need to wait around for BT5 to see a real twist for those two colors. But for now, they will still be playing Omnima. Blue will still be playing Imperial Drama. Those decks will be pretty much the same. Stuff like Black Ragna, Red Ragna, they will both still play basically the same. You have stuff like Fugamon for Red Ragna, but it's only a minor improvement in Dark Tyranno, and even in some scenarios you would prefer Dark Tyranno because of the higher TP. So those are like small things to consider. But with that out of the way, let's actually hop into and talk about how you can upgrade your decks going forward, starting with Ragnazoo. And the first card that I want to talk about, I have a small cheat list here, so apologies about that. But the first card I want to talk about for Ragnazoo and Megazoo in general, but especially Ragnazoo, is Hexeblau. This card will release in BT5, and in my opinion, after Crusadermon or Lord Knightmon, whichever you prefer, this card, when BT5 releases, is probably the most powerful single card. Just like that. What it does, it's a blue mega, 11k DP, 3 Digivolution cost, 12 to play. This is what we're looking at with Ragnazoo, since at least I, in my build, don't play. The only blues I play are Digitama, rookies, and then a few option cards. So you have nothing to go into this with. But you can go from this into an Omnimon if you want to. I usually don't, since you have a couple of very powerful effects. So, when attacking, you trash up to 2 Digivolution cards from the bottom of one of your opponent's Digimon. And after that, it checks the opponent's whole board. If they have any Digimon that don't have Digivolution sources, it gains jamming for that attack. And then it has this extremely oppressive floodgate effect that all turns your opponent only cannot attack nor block with any Digimon without sources, which is incredible in so many different matchups. Like, you basically have almost no decks that never hard play Digimon, and even when they're stacking with the attack triggers, you can rip off their sources and you can then get jamming, so 11k doesn't often matter, since you can get jamming for that swing, and it can enable your own floodgate. So this is just an incredibly powerful standalone card that has definitely helped me a ton with my Ragnazoo build for against more aggressive decks, as well as stuff that wants to really sort of play this build a beast style, because you can just rip out their specific sources. And also help the whole Ragnalord build, since the main way a ton of decks get rid of it, if we're ignoring like obvious specific removal options, is by power boosting, since Ragnarlord is quite big at 14k. So with Hexeblau, you can actually rip the boosts out of those cards, help with the mirror as well. This is incredible in a Ragnarlord mirror, and also make it so that no power boosting basically can help you get over Ragnar, so the opponent basically needs Crusadermon or they need Omnimon. So they have much less options going forward. So this is definitely a card that I recommend overall looking at for all types of Megazoo decks, but definitely for Ragnazoo, because it plays very well in that deck. And it's also something to look out for in the BT5 format. BT5, by the way, I want to talk about because I love that format. I know Crusadermon is in there, but I still love that format, and I have so many decks to talk about with BT5 that somewhere in the future I want to make more specific videos about those, so just mention about that. But that's the one card I want to talk about, Ragnazoo. I think Ragnazoo has a really good package of cards already, and will do well even in BT5 format. But the next one I want to talk about is the all-coveted red-yellow security control. And for that, I want to jump to the tab with the Gallantmon starter deck. There are two cards here in particular that I want to talk about, and then I have one card in BT4 that I want to talk about. And the two cards in the Gallantmon starter deck that, in my opinion, are just, well, it's not even in my opinion, it's just, they are upgrades going forward, is the Geogreymon, since the current... most of the builds that I've seen for the current one play like 2 or 3, some even play 4 of the current security Greymon, which is just a security vanilla with 5/2 win play cost and Digivolution cost. And what this one does is it's one more to play, 1k more DP, security effect, but it actually has an on-play effect as well to delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 4,000 DP or less. So it is basically just a straight upgrade to the security Greymon, since you also can pick out a small Digimon with this. And since it comes out from the security for free, it doesn't really matter that it costs one more, which obviously the deck doesn't really care in most scenarios either way about giving the opponent one more memory. It doesn't really matter. So this is just a straight upgrade to the security Greymon. And another one that's a straight upgrade is this new incredible option card, Atomic Blaster. 5 play cost, and its effect is that you can choose any number of your opponent's Digimon with total DP up to 8,000 and delete them. We currently have a card called, I think it's Shield of the Just or Shield of the True, and it's a 6 cost that says delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 5k DP or less, and if you have a red tamer, instead delete one with 8k or less. This one is 1 cheaper, it's always 8k, and you can spread the targets, so it can help clear 2 or even 3 in some scenarios, smaller Digimon. And both of them also have the security effect that they just activate. So this card is absolutely incredible. And overall, just the red Gallant starter deck is, in my opinion, an insane value package. It has so many good cards. I definitely recommend checking it out and probably picking up a few copies. And then we have one more card that I want to talk about, which is in BT4. And this card will be very format warping for overall the BT4 format, and that is Ceresmon Valder Arm. It's a level 7, 6 Digivolution from green or yellow. I'm pretty sure most of you know what this does, but just in case you don't, when Digivolving, you activate the following effect twice, and one of your opponent Digimon gets minus 7k DP for the turn for each. So you can target two separate ones, you can target the same thing twice, and if that wasn't enough, you also have a floating effect where on deletion you gain 3 memory. So this card is absolutely incredible, and since at least I personally in my own security control build, I play, some people play Slash Angemon, and with Slash this is incredible, but I personally don't. But I do play Magnadramons, and I do play Seraphimons, and sometimes later on when Seraphimon security attack doesn't really matter, I just want more removal. This is great on top. Magnadramon, the only level 3s I play, I think, are... I don't even think... I've tweaked the build a few times. I don't think even I play the Patamon. I think I just play Salamon and then a single copy of Lucemon, if I remember correctly. I can't remember because it's been like a bit over a week since I last tweaked it, but regardless, I don't play many level 3s, so I don't really care about the Magnadramon attack triggers, and I would rather have more removal in a floating bigger body on top of it. So Valder Arm is just incredibly flexible, and this will be a very powerful card for very many decks. The regular Ceresmon is still good, but I don't think it'll be nearly as format warping as Valder Arm will. But this is still a nice card, just not something that we will talk about today. But then for Shinegreymon, I actually have quite a few cards that I want to talk about. One of them is in BT6, I'll just quickly mention it. It's quite a far bit away and I want to talk about it later, but the dual tamer for TK and Kari. Start of your turn, if you have fewer security than your opponent, you gain 2 memory, and then on your turn, when your yellow Digimon attacks, you may suspend the tamer to minus 1000 one of your opponent's Digimon. It's a pretty good tamer, and in my opinion, just a very easy upgrade to starter deck TK. I personally, in my current Shinegreymon build, I'm running 4 booster TK, 4 Kari, if you have 3 or less security, and then 2 of these, and that has been working wonderfully as well. I have tried 4 was definitely too much. I have tried 3 of this and 3 Kari, and that also worked very well, but I just prefer the 4-2 for now at least. But this is definitely a very good tamer to look out for in the future for Shinegreymon especially. But then for the other cards that I want to talk about for Shinegreymon, once again, Valder Arm is a very good card in that deck as well. So that we already talked about. But then I have 2 cards that I really want to talk about, and then one that I also think is up for consideration, depending on your build. So let's go first page. The first card I want to talk about is the Red Ragnazoo, but on your turn it is also treated as yellow, and it can digivolve from yellow. The inherit effect says that if you have a tamer, when attacking, give one of your opponent's Digimon minus 2000 DP for the turn, which is a good inherit. And then the main thing why you're probably interested in this is that it has Digiburst 2 to play a red or yellow tamer card with a play cost 4 or less from your hand for free. And unlike the yellow Ragnazoo, this one actually does activate their on play effects. So if you play boosters at TK with this, you actually do get the search of your security stack. So this is definitely a very good level 5 to implement into your Shinegreymon decks. And I'm currently personally running it, I think at 3 copies, and it's working great. Level 5's Shinegreymon has a ton of good stuff, so it's hard to sometimes find the space, but I definitely do think you should try to justify including this in your Shinegreymon builds. I think it's amazing. Then another one that I want to talk about is the second wave of generic blockers. For yellow, it's Pitomon. So the first wave is obviously you have 5 play cost, 2 Digivolution cost, 6k blockers with the generic blocker effects, and the second wave is 6-1 and 5k DP. So these do die to Ultra S if that's something you're worried about. But why I really like Pidomon in Shinegreymon is that it helps turbo out into Shinegreymon more since you Digivolve for 1 less. And that way you can also easier choke your opponents. So this is just a good card to run in Shine. Obviously it's up to you whether or not you prefer the 6-1s or the 5-2s. But I think Pidomon is a very good fit into Shine. And then going back to the earlier talk about the level 5 space being very tight in Shinegreymon, I personally am not running this card. I have tried it and it's worked wonderfully, but I just prefer other options. But a very powerful yellow card coming out in BT4 is the yellow War Growlmon. It has, once again, a Digiburst ability, where you can Digiburst 2 to give minus 4k to one of your opponent's Digimon, which is extremely powerful in the Shinegreymon, because basically you have, for the turn, 1 additional tamer. If you manage... Oh, sorry. If you manage to go into this, you pop the Digiburst 2, give minus 4k, and then you go from this into a Shinegreymon, and then you basically just have for that Shine another tamer on board for the turn, since you get an additional minus 4k on a target. And then the inherits just says that if you have 3 or fewer security cards, the Digimon gets 1000 DP on your turn. So I do think Red Rise Greymon is better for Shine, but like I said, I have tested with this and it does come up sometimes actually very clutch. So I have been, because in my current one I run yellow Rise Greymon and red Rise Greymon, and then I run I think 2 Digimon for more aggressive matchups. But I have been thinking of cutting out the 2 Digimon for this. But another card that I have tested and really like is, I think it's called Ceresmon. It's the vanilla 5-2. And for my build, it's been working wonderfully as well. So it's just, for Shine, you have, in my opinion, a very tight level 5. So it's hard to justify some of the cards. But definitely something I recommend you look out for and try. And this card in the yellow War Greymon deck is insane. So definitely something to look out for. And then the next one that I want to talk about is the purple deck, and then we'll briefly talk about Ceresmon, as the last one. And for purple, the big thing to look out for is Anubismon. Anubismon is a level 6 that on Digivolve it plays a level 3, so any rookie from your trash without paying its memory cost, and unlike many other purple trash recursion cards, this one actually does apply the on-play effect. So if you play stuff like Demi-Devi that on-play trashes the top 2 of your deck, that kind of stuff does apply. And additionally, it has the effect that on your turn, all of your Digimon played from your trash have rush, so they can attack on the same turn they come out of there. So in my opinion, this is a bit... It's hard to say if it's better than Piedmon, but it's like basically just the best friend to Piedmon. And definitely should be a mainstay in purple decks going forward. And another thing that purple should definitely look out for is this one. When BT4 releases around the same time, we get the new wave of starter decks. And there are a few cards here that I want to talk about that I think are great for purple. Ragnazoo is just a generically very easy to access power booster if that's something you value, since most of the purple cards have actually quite low DPs. So this is something to look out for. The level 5 slot isn't, in my opinion, very contested anyway in purple, so this is something that I think could easily be included. Then you have the generic, once again, the generic new wave blockers, which is just whether or not you prefer going for faster Digivolutions or for a bit stronger blocker that doesn't die to Ultra S, which in purple especially is a very fair argument since Piedmon does play level 4s, so Valemon is obviously better to call of it than Devimon. Since you also do most purple builds play the Vengeance Devimon as well, so Omnimon can pop multiple ones if you play Devimon instead of Vile, but still something to look out for. Then you have a new Gabumon that gives you a loading effect when attacking, so you draw one and then you discard one, which is just generically very good for checking your hand quality. And then we have the new Pagumon that trashes the top 2 cards of your deck on deletion, which I think is... This in my testing has been in most cases the better Pagumon, and my purples usually, if I don't run Devimera and instead want to go all in for the mill, I run 4 of this Pagumon and 1 of the boosters at Pagumon. So those are cards that you definitely want to look out for. Also, the new Ceresmon that comes out in the starter deck is also decent. It basically just can Digiburst 2 to activate the Digivolution effect of Anubismon, but it has to be purple and doesn't obviously gain Rush. Unless you have both, then it's good, but it costs 4 to go into, which is a bit detrimental. But this is still a good card, and definitely one of the better boss monsters to come out of these starter decks. I still do think that the green Hercules Capiterimon is the best, but after that I do definitely think that Crest is probably the next best one. And then finally, like I said, just real quickly, Ceresmon. So Ceresmon, in my opinion, doesn't change too much going forward, and it actually functions very well as is, even in BT5 format. One of my friends plays Ceresmon as one of their main decks, and they can still put up a fight basically no matter what I do. It's just because Ceresmon is just so flexible and so good. It obviously hurts to lose Argamon level 5, but it's still, the deck does still perform very well in BT5. And the same thing applies here. You have this cheaper Digivolution blocker if that's what you would rather go for. You have Lilimon as an option to get more stuff in your hand. It's basically a level 5 that when Digivolving you reveal top 5 and you add a level 6 or higher. So you can find a Ceresmon that way. You can find Argamon level 6 if that's something you'll play, which I recommend you do. I think it's a very good card in Ceresmon, especially if you use Ceresmon as more of a mid-range / control-y style, especially in the early to mid game, which I think is how the deck should be played. And then what I feel like should go into most Ceresmon builds going forward, which is the green Tentomon. It's just a basic rookie that you can with 0 cost Digivolve into, but you can also use it as almost as a Gabumon, since on play effect you reveal your top card, and if it's a green Digimon, it goes to your hand. And basically the only cards that whiff in most builds for this are the Mimis. Some builds play Valdor Arm, in which case this would whiff, and then Flower Cannons if that's something you play. But it's still a very small pool of cards that whiff, so it's just an easy plus one, or sort of replaces itself no matter whether you Digivolve into it or just play it as is. But those are pretty much the decks that I wanted to talk about today, and sort of like having a look at BT4. It's a very like freestyle video. I had a few cards listed here that I really wanted to talk about, but other than that, I don't ever script my stuff. I just like free talking, which is also why I enjoy live streaming. By the way, check out my Twitch. But yeah, let me know what you think and what I could improve on in the future, because I love this game. I have been playing it, like I said, for the past few months. It's basically all I've been thinking about for the majority of the past few months, in addition to school. So it's definitely something that I enjoy talking about. I enjoy playing. So if there's something I can improve on videos like this, then definitely make sure to let me know in the comments. But going forward, once again, I will never have an uploading schedule. It never works out, so don't hold your breath. But I do definitely want to talk about some BT5 stuff going forward. I don't think BT4 is too interesting of a format. It doesn't change much. It adds a few decks into the mix, and I think like Nidhoggmon and Yellow War Greymon, like I said, will be like the top dogs going forward. But I do feel like when we go into BT5, I do want to talk more about, I have a ton of BT5 decks that I'm super excited to talk about. So I definitely do want to make more videos talking about stuff like that, and maybe some deck profiles at some point, if that's a thing that people would enjoy. But this has been over 30 minutes now, so thanks for sticking with me all the way through. If you got this far, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And like I said, hopefully you enjoyed, and hopefully you found something informative in this video and it was helpful in some way. If that was the case, then that's more than enough to make me happy. Like I said, if you want to follow me on Twitch, Twitter, those links will be in the description box. And with that, on that note, whenever I'll see you guys next time, I'll see you then. So have a good one, y'all, and peace out.